So you see, this is what it's all about. This is me and Lulu. Me and Lulu on the Stu Show. What you got to say about it, Lulu? Yeah, this week we got Chad Chapin, Grammy-nominated Chad Chapin. Sorry. I'm going to say your name right, Chad. Grammy-nominated Chad Chapin. Brethren drummer Chad Chapin. BMI, our Song of the Year, Chad Chapin. Guys, this is a big-time rock and roll star. Yeah, he came by the house, came by Happy Hill. First guest up on the hill. First time we've tried it, a two-man live squad. Yeah, man, so we talk about it, dad, life on the road. We talk about some crazy stories from the road. Talk about inspiration to be creative. Just all kinds of stuff, guys. This is a great opportunity to hear hear what kind of makes somebody of that success tick. He's a great dude, great husband, great father. I assume great husband. I won't speak for his wife, but I mean they're married, so chances are that's a win too. Chances are that checks the box. Yeah, so this is drummer for the Brethren. They're a new country. It's a Northwest country. We'll get into that a little bit on the pod. But yeah, they got some new music out. They're really trying to see where it goes. All just have successful musical careers and came together and decided to do something, more about what their heart was talking about. And just seeing where that goes. But anyways, hope you guys enjoy the pod. As always, check out 615 Local for any kind of needs you have. They got connects to all kinds of businesses out there. Any kind, just whatever you need done. What do you think about it, Lulu? Huh? You got anything to say? She's a little shy right now. She might throw up on me in a second if you wait long enough. But anyways, yeah. This is Stu. You're watching the Stu Show. That's Lulu looking at you. Like, subscribe on YouTube. We really love for you to check it out on YouTube. We're way better in that avenue than we are putting it on sound. So yeah, you know about it, Lulu. But if you can only listen, it's on Apple, it's on Spotify, it's on all the major platforms. So enjoy yourselves, enjoy the show. Shout out Chad Chapin. Yeah, it's the Stu Show. Peace. No, you're good. No, yeah, you might want to eat the mic a little more. Sorry. Yeah, dude. As I said, you're more of a professional. We're going now. It's casual. What up? This is Stu. I'm still even working through names. I just call it Stu. And the funny thing is, I was just telling Chad, just started this over the pandemic. I didn't realize when I named my podcast, I had named it The Village Idiot, or I thought I did. Turns out the way I was putting in all the information, I just named it Stu. So, and when we started we had a sponsor come on board, and they're the ones who pointed that out to me. So, yeah, that's how new we are. But anyways, this is at my house. Chad's the first guest. This is Chad Chapin.
Woo!
Yeah, dude. Drummer for the Brethren, devout family man.
That's right.
Yeah, dude.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man.
This is really cool.
We're excited. As I said, this is kind of the first adventure into it. I didn't realize, so we knew each other a little prior to this, and I didn't realize that we had kind of ran in similar circles. And I also, congratulations, because I didn't realize how freaking good you were at what your job is, dude. So, yeah, Grammy nominee, Song of the Year winner. That's pretty sick stuff, man. So,
thanks.
Congrats.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a dream of mine since I was 7 years old. And I grew up in the mountains in Oregon, and my dad was a pastor of a church. And so I just grew up playing drums in church. And there's some funny stories there. But yeah, so just my brother, he's 5 years older than I am. And so he played bass. My dad was an amazing musician. And so we just grew up just playing in church, and we just loved to play. And so because my dad was the pastor, we had the security code to the church and a key. So after everybody, this whole church staff would go home, my brother and I would go in there and we would crank Van Halen and all this stuff, and like just dreaming one day of playing music professionally. And there was one time we were watching these videos, and how when you watch a lot of bands live, there's smoke machines.
Oh yeah, dude.
So we're like,
big fog machine guy.
Yeah. And so we're like, how do we get smoke going? And so I found a fire hydrant, and so decided to set that thing off, and it created a lot of fog. And so the next morning was Sunday, and so my dad showed up to church to turn lights on and get things ready. Well, overnight, all this fog started settling, and so there's this white film over everything. My dad's grand piano, all this stuff. So that was we had to clean all that up, and let's just say that was the least of the worries.
Dude, I'm sure that's wild. Trying to think, because I did, like I said, I did the research. You were in Tate.
Yes.
With Michael Tate of DC Talk.
Yeah.
I just a little. I grew up in a United Methodist Church on Marietta Square. Used to do the youth camps, did all that stuff. Was DC Talk. Like, I love DC Talk.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. Tawny did some kind of thing on Facebook or whatever that my wife saw, and it was name all the 90s Christian rock songs, and she just played them in an hour. I got 5 for 5. 5 for 5, dude. And I will mention about DC Talk and Jesus Freak. That album does not get the credit. Like, if it wasn't a Christian rock album, people would put, like, you want to talk about bands that evolved with music? Like, they did. Question. So, like, how was it? Because Tate, like, you guys were mega successful in that genre. How was it? I think people see, like, the big rock star life and whatever, and then there's a different side of that music that you still live a cool life. It's just like you kind of get to do it a little more inconspicuously. Like, I feel like that's the way to do it. I feel like you did it right. So did you enjoy doing it that way?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of pressure of making sure that you are staying current. And so when we approached, like, the Tate Records, a lot of times what we would do, we would go see some of our favorite bands live, whether if they were playing an arena in Atlanta or something like that. We would just go, and this was all like right before we hit the studio, just to really be inspired and just making sure that the creative juices are flowing, if you will. So yeah, it was a lot of just, when we're recording, just, I think that was the cool thing about the bands that I was in, and especially Tate. All the guys in the band, we all brought something different.
Yeah.
Like Michael Tate, huge Nat King Cole fan. But then at the same time, during that time back then, I mean, he was a huge Pearl Jam fan too. So it was just a big blend. And like when you listen to the DC Talk records, you have these ballads, and then you have Jesus Freak, so you have this kind of all over, but it was just the influences that we grew up with, from rock and roll to gospel, a little bit of country, not that much, but but all of it just kind of came together, and that's kind of what formed the sound that we were.
Dude, it's what, because like I said, we similar circles. A dude on DC Talks, one of their first records, he helped write them. He was at Liberty University. So when I say similar circles, I'm a Liberty University guy.
I gotcha. Makes sense. Makes sense.
So I actually was involved a bit with the family, Thomas Road Baptist, the whole deal.
Yeah.
And I never realized it how into it I was one day till I was at it was an airport in Kennesaw Mountain, Georgia, picking up Dr. Falwell, which like he was getting in the car, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't know how I wound up here, but a guy, Steve Veal, and I'll go ahead and say his whole name. He was one of the writers for, I guess, DC Talks. One of the he didn't make the cut once. Not trying to besmirch my man Steve, the real deal Veal, but once the real music started happening.
Oh yeah, we would go through so many songs. So like whenever we would prep for a record, ourselves, like even if we were planning on anywhere from 10 to 12 songs being on an album, we would write and demo at least 40 songs, because we knew
crazy.
Because there was always times where we were like, this song's a hit, and then a couple months later when we hit the studio, that song never even made the album. And so our mindset behind all that was, we can always outwrite ourselves. So if we have a big number of songs, then plus we would grab outside songs too from other writers, you know, like what you're talking about, of like, oh my gosh, that song is so good. So we just kind of throw it in this big pot, and then between our label and then us as a band, we would just kind of start narrowing it down until we had what felt like a full album where all the songs fit, and it felt like, hey, this represents who we are the best.
That's sick. So now you're doing the Brethren. How, I have to feel it looks, the way it's built into your life is much different than the way your life was back at those records. It's a much different dance when you're making a record and traveling. How has that adjustment been? Because you did take some time off in there to do some, just be a dad. That's what we're really here for anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And I always say this too, like when you're a kid and you're dreaming of like being a rock star one day or whatever you want to call it, nobody tells you like, hey, when you get married, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Traveling as much as you do. And then nobody tells you, hey, when you have kids, it's not just going to be tough. It's going to suck. And so, because all of a sudden, I'll never forget I have 4 kids. My oldest is 13, and her name is Salem. And when she was born, I literally stepped off the bus, our tour bus in Nashville, and 7 hours later, she was born. And 5 days later, I was off on a plane heading over to Japan, and we had this whole month-long Asia tour that we were doing. And I'll never forget landing in Tokyo, getting to the hotel, and calling my wife, and I was broken. Like, I was like, I don't like this. I don't have my whole heart for the first time. And this is a weird feeling. This is weird, man. I don't know what just happened, but I just screwed everything up. But then, no, I didn't. I just made everything so much better, because life isn't about music. No. It is about our families and our children. And so, but man, I will never forget that moment. It tripped me up.
Oh no, dude, full on. I do live events for a living. So I travel. I've spent at least 2 weeks in a different major city each of the past 6 months. So I've been on the road, and, we just had a little girl and stuff like that. And before I was going to LA, and I had some sickness, but I wasn't feeling great. Before I got on a plane, full on panic attack, just because I was like, I don't want to leave this. like this, used to all this grandeur, you're plane up, all that shit.
Yeah.
And I just, it's not as fun anymore. But you still love it. Like
Yes.
you still put on the uniform for the love of the game.
That's right.
So yeah, that's what I've seen you guys had some traction with the Brethren. It's going well.
Yeah.
What's in game here?
Well,
or do you know yet? Or just having fun?
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. I'll tell you kind of like how the Brethren came about, and I think that may answer kind of where we're going.
Professional.
So the Brethren, it is two sets of brothers. So it's my brother and myself, and then Corey and Casey, they're also brothers. All four of us were preachers' kids, and I always say that's probably why we're a little screwed up, in a good way. So in March of 2020, when the pandemic hit, on the day that everything started shutting down, like when they canceled the NBA season, the NHL season, and all the big corporations.
Rudy Gobert.
Yeah. So my brother, Corey and Casey, they all live in Oregon, and I live in Pleasant View. And they were on a plane flying to Nashville. And when they landed, they were like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "Dude, they just canceled the NBA season, all this stuff." And I'm like, "What?" So anyways, all that being said, the four of us have been best friends for a very, very long time. And we've always talked about like, man, one day it'd be so great to do a band of just like us. But we were all in other bands and all of that. And so it just never worked out for the four of us to ever get together. So they were flying here. We rented a studio called Diamond Sound Studios, and we just got together to play purely for the love of music. And it had nothing to do with, hey, let's try to start a country band. Hey, let's try to start a Christian band or a rock band. It was, let's just play.
Yeah.
And so, we got some booze and just hung out and just had a blast. And the songs that we came up with, at least we thought that they were really, really good. And so a month later, we're like, hey, let's do that again. And so they flew back in, and all we did was just play and write. And so the songs that we were writing during that time, we just kind of compiled this whole catalog of songs. And then it was after the third time they flew in and we did the same thing again. That's when we were like, hey, there is something here, and it's something really special. And with this band, I mean, and I've played, DC Talk and Tate and Folds and all that stuff, but this was the first unsigned band I've ever played in, and it's the most fun I've ever had. And it's been crazy. So we're doing shows. And just the response has been incredible. CMT picked up our music video. And so we're starting to get this traction here and there. We just did a private showcase in Nashville last weekend. And we had 80 people there that was all like industry. And there's a buzz right now. And so it's really cool. But at the same time, when you're starting a band from scratch and you're not joining a band that was already signed, it's like starting a business. It takes way more time, energy, effort than you always think it will.
Oh, for sure. And when you've done those things already, that fulfillment. It's a little bit of chasing the dragon, maybe. So no, that's awesome, man. I wanted to go to that showcase. Just little Lucille. 4 months, she wasn't letting us out of the house yet.
Dude, I understand.
She went, but he probably didn't want me around all the industry folk anyway, dude. What? So you've done all the touring and all that stuff. What's a moment kind of where it clicked in for you when you're out there on stage or whatever, like where you was like, oh shit. like
oh shit in a good way or
like in a great way.
Okay.
Like for me, like I think there's a way you make it to that where you're never truly satisfied.
Yeah.
But I like to think there's elements where you take those mental snapshots and you're like, oh.
Yeah. So this was probably my, probably one of the coolest moments for me. So there's growing up in the Northwest, there's a huge music festival out there, called Creation West. And the venue that it was always at was at this place called the Gorge. And it wasn't the venue wasn't just for this music festival. All the major A-list acts all came there to perform. But the stage sat up on the end of this cliff. And when I say cliff, I mean it's a legit cliff. And so that's where the back of the stage is. And then all the fans, 30,000 people, will sit in kind of this natural surrounding. I mean, it's beautiful. It's even way more beautiful. I mean, in my opinion, than like Red Rocks. But so I grew up seeing shows there.
Yeah.
And I probably went to like 15 shows at the Gorge. And then when I was playing in Tate, we headlined a night there at that place. And so being on stage and just remembering as a kid, just going like, gosh, man, one day I'm going to be on that stage, and then doing it. I'll never forget that, just having those goosebumps and looking around and having 30,000 people there. It was a moment I'll never forget.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. The only time I was ever in front of that many people early in my post-basketball career, which my basketball career was nowhere near. Like, you tell people you play professional basketball at some point in your life, they don't realize how many levels to those things you are. Because similar to coming up in a band, like you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
but this in my post-profession, doing live events and stuff like that, I was doing an event for Oprah in Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. And I simply was walking to get the podium off stage. This is like a roadie thing, right?
Yeah.
Walking to get the podium off stage. I'm not paying no attention. I think I'm 25. Just head down, go to get it. They're still going. Like nobody stopped me. It's just a pure case of act like you know what you're doing. So I just start walking forward. It's like, oh, time to get the podium. I'm going to go get it. I walk out. I look up. Somebody's still at the podium. There's 35,000 women for Oprah's conference
hilarious.
just staring at me. And so I just kept walking, just straight line to the other side. Like, yep, just random white dude just walking. What's up, guys? It was a time. So that's little different epiphany to counteract yours, man.
It's really funny.
But no, so how much are you looking to get back out on the road? Are you, or I know you've been doing some traveling.
That it's kind of a loaded question. Good question.
I don't want.
So I've got a lot of.
If you haven't had conversations yet,
I mean, the majority of my friends that have been in music professionally and then get married, have kids, they come off the road and they're like, gosh, man, I would never want to do that again. As far as going back out on the road. And yeah, I took a little bit of a break, but I don't know what it is. It's like, it is in the fabric of my being. And yes, my family now is priority, ahead of music. But I cannot shake what is in here and just the creative energy that comes from being with guys you love and your bros and writing and just creating something from nothing. And then playing those songs live and then seeing fans sing those songs. There's nothing like it. It is, I mean, it's kind of like our form of heroin, I guess.
Chasing the dragon, man.
It is a drug that doesn't have as many side effects, I guess.
No. The down's not as bad, I guess.
Yeah,
but, I mean, it ain't pretty though. It can be, I guess.
Yeah, but Corey, who's our Corey, who's our lead singer, he's married and he's got 2 boys. The other 2 guys in the band, they're not married, and they don't think they have kids. I'm kidding. But so we're a little bit more selective.
Yeah.
We're not going to go jump on a tour that's, going to be gone for 3 months.
Yeah.
And thankfully nowadays they don't tour like they used to, in the late 90s, early, 2000s, a lot of the tours I was on, I mean, we'd be gone for 3 months straight, come home for a week, back out for 3 more weeks. So we were gone a lot. But now it'll be more selective of what we do and just making sure that our families are taken care of, and on off days of flying our families out, and just, trying to do things a little bit different now. Just because obviously our families are extremely important.
Oh yeah. So there was that golden era with the Tate and of that Christian music. I had a buddy in a band. Their name was Exit East, and they were signed to Fervent Records.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was the wildest thing because there was a giant gap in you guys, the super successful, that and them who, I don't know if it was a bad record signing choice or whatever, because they had a hit on Christian radio, but it didn't sustain, and it went away faster. How much harder was it to, once you broke into Christian music, to sustain like quality of life and make it a career? Because it is a different industry.
Yes.
Like to where they had, I think they were top 5. They toured. I want to say they probably ran
the name,
and but they were in and around that same kind of Liberty, faction. It was a Liberty offshoot church. Shout out Westridge, still love them. But there was a lot. Brad Avery he would play with us on Sundays from Third Day.
Yeah.
So they were all that metro Atlanta area, and that's kind of where I came from. But just that's those circles. But
yeah, the one thing that was in the Christian music industry that was a little disheartening was there were times where we would release a song and we would start to gain traction with it, but then we would have one guy who would make the decision over like 100 radio stations. And if he was on board, you knew you were tracking and you were going to be at least in the top 20 at that point. But there were times where a song would be released, stations are starting to pick it up, and then there would be this one guy, a couple people that would be like, you don't say Jesus enough in your songs. And that was the reason. And so that kind of stuff was really disheartening, because it was like, how much of this is real life? How much of this are you wanting us to be real about? Or are you just wanting us to just be these safe little boys that are nice Christian boys that
just trying to fill up the demo rack at the local Christian bookstore?
That's right. That's right. And so there were times where, the tail wagged the dog, and you just, whenever that did happen, you always felt pretty icky about it, and it just wasn't real. And that was the part for me, that was like, and yeah, I'm a believer. But like at the end of the day, like I have issues and problems just like everybody else.
Oh yeah.
Just because I may be a believer or a Christian doesn't mean I have everything figured out. I mean, I don't. It is a journey, and it will be a lifelong journey, and probably till the day I die, I will still be wandering and searching, and that's just life. That's just life. And I'll never forget when the Tate era in my life, when that ended, and the next tour. The next gig that I got was for an artist named Ben Folds. And if you don't know who Ben Folds is, he's not a Christian. And he's a pretty big, one of the biggest underground artists. Like we would sell out 2 to 3. Right? Yeah. We'd sell out like 2,000 to 3,000 seat theaters. It was kind of like that size. It was smaller than Tate, but bigger in another different way. But I'll never forget the first show I did with Ben. On our rider for Ben Folds, and I'm coming from the Christian world, on our rider was 24 Stellas, 24 Guinness, a bottle of Grey Goose, nice. A bottle of red wine of whatever choice, and some specific kind of gin that Ben liked. That was every day. And so I was just like, what in the world? This is so crazy. And on our tour bus, which the windows are tinted, you cannot see inside, I opened the Guinness and I was still kind of hiding it. And when I realized, wait a minute, I can actually be me because I'm good enough. Like it doesn't matter. And so when I drank that first Guinness, I will never forget the feeling of that was pure freedom. It was pure freedom of I was able to be me. And I'm not talking about being some raging alcoholic, some drunk dude. It was just one Guinness, that I was just like, wait a minute.
That's our booze bag drummer Chad up there.
That's right. But I don't know. It was a moment that I will never forget, and the most freeing feeling of just like no one is judging me right now. I'm able to be me.
Oh, I remember very specifically, and that was at post basketball life. I was a creative arts director at another offshoot. Those churches I was a creative arts director of one of those franchises. Yeah. That's what we'll call them. So I'm going to take so much heat for that. They know I love them. I'd say it to them. I have. So that's why we sit here today. But I remember, because I came from a secular world into that, and I wasn't used to turning it off. And I didn't really feel like I had to. I felt like that was just somebody telling me I shouldn't do something. Right. That it wasn't really, couldn't find a whole lot of backing, but whatever. It's just cultural norms. And it feels different now, too, though. All of it, society, to me, feels a lot more genreless now. I think we put it on music, but it feels like you can kind of just, go to church, do the Christian music thing, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can just do your thing now. Yeah. You can just make music and stuff like that. But I do remember kind of when I left that world and went into the live experience that I do now, being like, thank God I can just, I can go have a beer. And my buddy who was in that band, I remember he wouldn't just go out. Like, we couldn't just go to a local restaurant. Yeah. Or, depending on weird stuff, how it changes now. Yeah.
For sure.
Is there a specific avenue now where you have to drive it to remain genreless, or is it just kind of wide open now?
Well, man, that's a really tough question.
I'm not meaning to do this.
No, I know.
I feel like I'm failing upwards a little.
That's good. I like that. I think as long as we're always failing upwards, that's good. We're in a good place.
Yeah, you see my wife?
That's awesome. No, so like with the Brethren, I mean, like I was saying, like when we were playing, we weren't trying to be something, and we weren't even trying to form a band or anything like that. It just organically came. And so the songs that we're currently writing, the songs that we have written, and the songs that are currently out right now, they're just real life. They're just us. And like, I don't know, they just kind of fit the struggle of humanity. And, not every day are you on a mountaintop. And so not every song should be all about, that's not real life. You have days like that, but most of the days you're spent in the valley. And so that's where a lot of our songs come from, of just real life. And I think too, for me, as even going back to being a dad, that is really important to me to teach my kids too, of just like, you're not always going to get your way. Not everything is going to go the way that you thought it was going to go. But it's okay. Like it's all right. And sometimes when you don't get what you want, what happens ends up being 10 times better than what you did want. And, I don't know, man, for me, that's just, I've lived a little bit of a life, and I do have some great stories and some pretty scary stories, and but
Feel you.
that's I know, but that's all of us, man.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter who you are, we're all going to go through those, and as long as you have, people around you to support whatever you do, and to be there for you during the down times and to celebrate with you in the up times, that's pretty cool.
Oh, for sure. And it's like I never thought I'd be like where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Not. This is a retirement life for us up here on this hill. I call it Happy Hill. But I'm a city dude. I never wanted to move out to.
This is the opposite.
Yes,
of the city.
100% the opposite. My wife knows that, but that's where the travel falls in, where I can enjoy it. Because now home for me is really just about them, and it's where they're happy and stuff. And I just awesome. Ride around my lawnmower and pretend it's a tractor up here.
Beer in the cup holder.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Sometimes 4. Sometimes I get the drink carriers from Chick-fil-A. And I put 24. I'm just kidding, people. Don't drink and drive. Don't do that.
Yeah. Especially with the blades.
Especially with lawnmowers. Disengage the blade. Yeah, disengage, dude. I'll give you a lawnmower riding lesson if you come up here. That'll be a new thing. When we have artists and stuff come up here, we'll give them a lawnmower hayride around the thing.
Dude, I'm down.
You get to hop in with Cutler. But, so it's Nashville and Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Two things that I can draw a lot of similarities to, depending on the parts of Oregon.
Yeah.
People might think that's weird. There's actually, Nashville's not that different. It's almost, I could definitely find a connection. There's some musical connections out there too. Maybe not Oregon as much as Northwest when I think that country style.
Yep.
What do you guys kind of draw some inspiration from, or do you, or just start flying?
Well, like kind of our sound, I mean, we are considered kind of like this. It's kind of this country rock, Americana kind of sound. And we just call it Northwest country.
That's the best way to describe it.
Exactly. But again, it's like when we got together to play, I mean, there were some songs that were just straight up rock and roll.
Yeah.
It didn't even have a lick of country in it. But then the more that we were writing and recording, it just kind of naturally, organically happened. And we just kind of fell into what our sound is. And so I don't know. I think for us, that's very rewarding of just knowing like, hey, we're not trying to sound like Keith Urban. We're not trying to sound like, Brothers Osborne or Led Zeppelin or something like that. Like this is like kind of our sound, and it's who we are. And so I think, as long as we stick to that, I think the brethren journey that we're on, it'll be very rewarding no matter what happens.
No, for sure. For sure. I'm interested to see it. I dig the stuff, man.
Thanks.
I dig the stuff. Rock and roll, My Baby.
Yeah.
That is a rock and roll tune. I dig that. I'm a big Band of Horses guy.
Yeah. Same.
I could see some similarities into some stuff. If you, for your personal drumming style, and I always talk to drummers because I don't know shit about drumming.
Yeah.
But like it's like the meathead answer. Like my favorite drummer's ever is Travis Barker.
Yeah.
But I really like it's because he's a legit.
Yeah.
He's a goon. Like I get it. I get it. Have your opinions about it. Play shit out some drums.
Yeah.
And people, if you like your guy, who do you have an inspiration, a guy you like to watch?
Yeah,
play?
and sadly, it was Taylor Hawkins.
Oh, yeah,
I think so growing up in the church, we were not allowed to listen to rock and roll. We couldn't even listen to Christian rock. For some reason, I don't know why.
Kings of Leon style, they had a similar story.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But I'll never forget my junior year in high school. I had a buddy of mine that played me Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. and it blew my mind. I was like, what is this? And from that point on, I mean, I love John Bonham, and watching all of his videos and drumming videos and drum solos and all that stuff as a kid growing up. Man, just blew my mind. Just the way that he played. I mean, a lot of people say Neil Peart. He's very technically like amazing when it comes to drums, but I'd much rather watch somebody like a John Bonham or a Taylor Hawkins or even like a Dave Grohl, just because they play with so much heart and they just put it all out there, and it's not all just about technique, but you can just tell that they love it. You know, Travis Barker too. All those guys, man, are just incredible. But yeah, Taylor Hawkins is just, I could watch him play for a very, very long time. But what's weird is, you know, a lot of the stuff that Dave Grohl did, because Dave Grohl played drums on a lot of the Foo Fighters stuff, especially early on.
So they realized Taylor was better.
But yeah, two of my favorite drummers were in the same band.
Yeah, I know that is wild.
Which is weird.
That is wild. I always say Travis Barker, but if I'm in a musician circle, I always say the Carter, the guy from Dave Matthews Band. Yeah. One you say he plays open. He plays open-handed, and everybody's like, "Dang, that guy really knows." Oh, no, you just kind of pick up things. But I did because he plays like this a lot, and I would assume most people don't. Obviously, I don't know anything about drums, but I got some good canned answers if I get myself into, you know, a nice little dunk on some people. Yeah, if somebody hits you, be like, yeah, well, this guy plays open-handed. So just dunk on him. That's funny. And
Stu knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's all over it. Big-time drum guy. Have no idea how to say his last name. The only reason I know that is had a friend who was Dave Matthews' tour manager. And I would just go to a Dave Matthews show and listen to all their fanatics, which there's some fanatics for Dave, which I would say Ben Folds has some similar vibes, but similar. And I would that size I would probably relate to a Sean Mullins. Do you know Sean Mullins? I'm a big Sean Mullins guy, but it's a Atlanta kind of influence. So anyways, well, anything you want to kind of throw out there?
Well, I'll keep you posted on the brother and stuff.
Yeah, dude. We'd love to have you back, too. Come hang out. We can do a walking pod where we can just go walk around and throw rocks.
Yeah, let's do it. Next time the guys are in town, I'll have to bring them over.
Yeah, bring them. We got outside. We could do all kinds of fun stuff here.
We'll go ride the lawnmower.
Yeah, dude. I'll get a bigger trailer.
Bigger cup holders,
or I could get a few, and we could do like a caravan.
Oh, okay.
If you check it out on Instagram, up in Canada, there's this group of guys who does off-road lawnmowers.
No way.
And they jack them up like 6 inches and take the blades off, and they're like climbing rocks and stuff.
Dude, there's a lot of alcohol involved if you are tricking out your lawn.
If you got to take the blades off, like if you've figured out a way to get around that contraption, you need. But that's Canada too. Yeah. You know, the Canucks are known for boozing. So, but yeah, so this Chad Chapin, the Brethren, family man, Grammy nominee. Hey, how is that? You get a letter? Like, what's up, dude? Grammy nominee.
Here's what's funny. My brother, we've both been nominated for a Grammy, but my brother won and I did.
Oh,
so I'm still a little bitter about that one. But I have won Song of the Year and he hasn't. So I'll
that's that. Yeah, I like that. Which one? Was his Grammy an individual or a band Grammy?
It was a band Grammy because my brother used to play for a band called Petra.
Yeah, dude, I know Petra. Yeah. For real?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was their bass player.
Dude, my friend Jody from where I'm from, this is the Christian rock thing. That's biggest Petra fan you've ever met in your life. And he was white-haired Christian rock worship band, but was phenomenal guitarist. I think that's something people don't. There's dudes playing instruments on Sundays in churches across this world,
absolutely,
who are just ridiculously talented. I had another favorite drummer of mine, Darren King, formerly of Mute Math.
Oh,
Mute
Math's awesome.
And he's a wild card. I don't know if you ever did any duct tape into the headphones to your head.
No.
But there's a buddy, he played on church every Sunday, and Mute Math wanted him to come out, and Family Force 5 wanted him to come out, and wanted to play at church on Sunday.
A lot of musicians got started in the church.
But it's fun. There's so many of them who are just cool with staying there, just like, whatever, dude.
That's right.
Playing some music. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming out. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. I'm going to come check out the Brethren.
All right.
I do have a dream for this property, though, and it's to do like a Fire on the Mountain type festival up here.
That would be sick.
Because you can see the peak of the hill over there. We can just pull full Woodstock. I can be like the old guy in the short shorts who has no idea what's going on. I'll just play dumb. When
the police show up, I don't know.
Just the farmer. Just the farmer. All these
with
hippies.
The tricked out lawnmower.
Yeah, these hippies showed up and started playing their music. But we'll sprinkle in some Christian bands in there, and then we're in.
Hey,
we're in for it, dude. But thanks for coming out, dude. We out.
Bye.
There.